Welcome everyone to Friday night at the Art Center, our opening celebration for the exhibition, The Black Index. I'm Karen Kinzel, Director of the Palo Alto Art Center, and I'm so very honored to introduce the City of Palo Alto Vice Mayor, Pat Burt, who would like to provide a welcome for the event.
Thank you, Karen, and it's a real honor for the city of Palo Alto to have the opportunity to present the Black Index. It's part of our commitment to equity and inclusion, and I'm just looking forward to seeing the breadth of experience and variety of mediums and really the expression through the eyes of the artists of their experiences and the historic perspectives that they're going to offer. And frankly, I really look forward to learning from this exhibit and to the dialogue that we can have as a result. Um, Art just provides this different lens from which we can see and experience and try to make sense of our world and our society and the changes that are going on. And this exhibit just provides a whole set of perspectives that many of us will learn and gain from and need to be exposed to and understand and have greater empathy toward. Um, so because of this, I really think that the Black Index exhibition is and its related programs are going to provide a great opportunity for the community to have conversation and discussion and reflection. I want to applaud the museum for bringing this forward, and most of all, the artists for what they're going to be sharing with us. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor Burt. We are very proud to be the only Northern California venue for the Black Index exhibition, and so look forward to you all seeing the show in person during its run through August 14th. We are also very appreciative that you've joined us tonight. We've organized a wonderful schedule of activities that includes a reading, a chance to virtually experience the exhibition with the curator, a poetry activity, and much more. We would first like to thank the generous sponsors for the exhibition. We are so appreciative of your support to make this exhibition possible. Thank you. We would like to specifically call out the sponsors who supported the Palo Alto presentation of the Black Index: Mike and Lauren Gordon, the Reparations Project, Pamela and David Hornick, Applied Materials Foundation, and Cal Humanities. Thank you so much. We also want to remind you about the related programs being offered at the Palo Alto Library in conjunction with their Book to Action series. You can find information here on this flyer, and the follow-up email that you'll receive after this event will include information. I also see that Karen has put information in the chat. Thank you. We also want to highlight the work of the City of Palo Alto's Human Relations Commission, who are organizing 100 community conversations about race. There's information here, also at the link provided in the chat. As the Black Index exhibition curator, Bridget Cooks, will share in just a few minutes, this exhibition started with an essay, which became the inspiration for the show. We thought that this essay would be a perfect introduction to the event, and we're so pleased to have this recording of the first portion of the Black Index essay by Bridget Cooks, read by Aldo Billingsley. Many of you know Aldo, who is William J. Rewalk Professor of Theater at Santa Clara University. Aldo has worked in the San Francisco Bay Area at the American Conservatory Theater, Aurora Theater, California Shakespeare Theater, Cunning Ball Theater, Lorraine Hansberry Theater, Magic Theater, Marin Shakespeare Theater, Marin Theater Company, Theater Works, and Shakespeare Santa Cruz. Here is the start of the Black Index essay as read by Aldo Billingsley.
The artists in the Black Index offer refreshing approaches to visual indexes of Black bodies. Dennis Delgado, Alicia Henry, Kenyatta A.C. Hinkle, Titus Kafar, Whitfield Lovell and Lava Thomas each present the beauty of blackness, not to promote its consumerism, but to provide a space for meditation on the invisibility, misrecognition, and complexity of Black people. Since the moment of European contact with Africans, literary and visual representations have been organized through the Western perception of the world. Colonial images of Black people were generated internationally and represented Blackness as other, something to be contained and criminal, as sharply illustrated in the 19th century watercolors depicting Sarah Bartman, a Cocoa woman in South Africa, photographs of enslaved Africans in South Carolina, and stock images of wanted runaways in newspapers throughout the British colonies and the Danish West Indies. Images of Black people made by racial scientists, artists, and anthropologists, particularly through photography, formed an index for the purposes of identification, categorization, and containment, one that inherently represented death and criminality. Physical differences were categorized as either self or other, a separation that produced a false hierarchy of humanity and failed to recognize individual lives and circumstances within the systemic legacy of racism. The social and psychological impacts of these projects have had a ripple effect across space and time. Their destructive logics are sustained today through the obsessive state management and destruction of Black people in the name of law and order. Powerful in their political intention, yet disguised as scientific objectivity, these images tell the viewer more about the maker than the sitter. In response to the visual fixing of Blacks as subhuman, photographic practices by Black Americans in the 19th and 20th century sought to fight fire with fire by creating their own index. From the determined daguerreotypes of abolitionist author Frederick Douglass in the mid-19th century to the exhibit of American Negroes at the 1900 Paris exhibition organized by philosopher and historian W.E.B. Du Bois, and to new Negro studio photographers such as James Van Der Zee, James Latimer Allen, and Richard Samuel Roberts, counter-images were carefully constructed to unsettle previous and ongoing photographic projects that upheld the legacy of white supremacy. The artists featured in the Black Index exhibition build upon the tradition of Black self-representation as a response to colonialist images. Their translations of photography challenge its long-assumed qualities of objectivity, legibility, and identification, the phenomenological premise of the index. Dennis Delgado, Alicia Henry, Kenyatta A.C. Hinkle, Titus Kaphar, Whitfield Lovell, and Lava Thomas have changed the terms of the index for visual identification. Their projects create an alternative practice, what I am calling a Black Index, that counters the assumptions of photography as the most accurate and transparent form for providing information about Black subjects. If, as Rosalind Krauss reminds us, quote, indexes establish their meaning along the axis of a physical relationship to their reference, close quote. Their function as useful signs have failed to establish the recognition of Black people as photographic subjects. The Black Index is a strategy to contest the overwhelming number of photographs of Black people as victims of violent crimes that are circulated with such regularity and volume that they no longer refer to the persons they depict. Instead, the photographs become a non-event that marks the monotonous, unremarkable, and numbing condition of the normality of Blackness as death. The Black Index creates new synapses, perceptive inroads into conceiving Black death as loss to be mourned and remembered. It argues that the full complexity of form and spirit is lost in the daily march of photographs of Black death. These artists make works that question and transform the reliance on photography as the source for visual objectivity and understanding. In their hands, the index still serves as a finding aid, but the artists challenge the viewer's desire for classification and instead redirect them toward different ways to perceive their images and the context in which they are seen. I argue that these artists accomplish three things. One, they make viewers aware of their own expectations of what a portrait is. Two, they interrupt traditional epistemologies of portraiture through unexpected and unconventional presentations. And three, they present the Black body through a conceptual lens that acknowledges the legacy of Black containment that is always already present in viewing strategies. Their artworks are not visually similar, nor do they resemble photographic counter-image projects. Their dissimilarities point toward unexplored approaches to representing Blackness, even in a moment when contemporary viewers have greater access to images of Black bodies than ever before. Their tactics suggest understandings of Blackness and racial terms of our neoliberal condition that are alternatives to legal and popular interpretations of Blackness. Their art offers a paradigmatic shift within Black visual culture.
We want to thank Aldo Billingsley for sharing his incredible voice with us for that video, and want to apologize for the visuals. There were some technical issues with the visuals that prevented us from all seeing the captions or the images themselves. So I apologize for that. I hope that it was a good introduction to the exhibition. Once again, want to thank Aldo Billingsley. I'm now delighted to introduce the curator at the Black Index exhibition, Bridget R. Cooks. Bridget R. Cooks fills a joint appointment in the Department of African American Studies and the Department of Art History at UC Irvine. Cooks's research focuses on African American art and culture, Black visual culture, museum criticism, film, feminist theory, and postcolonial theory. In 2002, she earned her doctorate degree in the Visual and Cultural Studies program at the University of Rochester. She has received a number of awards, grants, and fellowships for her work, including the very prestigious James A. Porter and David C. Driscoll Book Award in African American Art History, and the Henry Luce Dissertation Fellowship in American Art. She's also curated several art exhibitions, including the Art of Richard Mayhew at MOAD in San Francisco, Grafton Tyler Brown, Exploring California at the Pasadena Museum of California Art, and Ernie Barnes, a retrospective at the California African American Museum. Prior to her appointment at UC Irvine, Bridget taught in the Department of Art and Art History and the Program of Ethnic Studies at Santa Clara University here in the Bay Area. She's also worked as a museum educator for the National Gallery of Art in Washington and the LA County Museum of Art. Welcome, Bridget. We look forward to experiencing the Black Index exhibition virtually with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bridget Cooks. I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome you to the Black Index exhibition here at the Palo Alto Art Center. I want to thank Karen for her wonderful introduction. I want to thank Aldo for his amazing voice in reading the introduction to my essay. That was really thrilling. Vice Mayor Burt, to our fantastic donors. And I also want to give a special thank you to my collaborator, Sarah A. Watson, who has done a terrific job as the exhibition manager in making the tour of the exhibition possible, as well as the forthcoming catalog that will be available in July. Sarah is the chief curator of the Hunter Art Galleries at Hunter College in New York, and that will be the last venue for the exhibition. So the Black Index exhibition is an exhibition of 6 artists. And what we're going to do briefly is to give you an overview of the work that you're going to see in the show, starting with the work of Dennis Delgado. Dennis Delgado was represented by 4 works that are part of his series called The Dark Database. And this is work that shows his interest in anti-Black racism and ending anti-Black racism, technology, and facial recognition systems. What he's done is to scan entire films that are examples of major contributions in African American cinema. So there's 4 works that you'll see: Do the Right Thing, Higher Learning, Training Day, and Black Panther. And he uses OpenCV, a programming language, along with Python to scan these films and have the software try to recognize the faces throughout the entire feature-length works. And what you're seeing here is an amalgamation of all the faces that are recognized in each of the cinematic works. And what you get is this kind of impressionistic type of brown face. And part of what he's interested in showing us is how technology, even though we think of it as being a good thing and advanced and something to make our life easier, it can express the same kind of biases as its programmers. So that what we're seeing, instead of a kind of advancement in recognition, we're seeing the failure for Black and brown faces to actually enroll in the software. And so we're seeing a continuity of misrecognition, where Black and brown people as individuals are not being read properly and understood by advanced technological systems. So this is the first work that you see when you're close up to the foyer of the exhibition installation. It's a wonderful introduction to the show and helps us think about systems of power, misperception, and misrecognition when it comes to Black and brown people. So as you walk up to the main gallery itself, you're going to see the work of Alicia Henry. And we're going to talk about her work, but we're going to start with the amazing work of Lava Thomas. So Lava Thomas is a Bay Area artist. She is a powerhouse. She's incredibly gifted and multi-talented. I'm delighted to have 3 drawings from her series, the Mugshot Portraits, Women of the Montgomery Bus Boycott, represented in the Black Index. And what she's done in this work is to transform images that are mugshot photographs from the criminal archive into these kind of homage portraits, showing the women in a way that reclassifies them, that shows how beautiful, how brave, how resilient they really were, and honors their contributions to the modern civil rights movement. These are women who were the organizers of the first mass action of the modern civil rights movement, involved in the bus boycott, which was successful, breaking down segregation in public transportation in that city. So we're looking here at Lava's image of Joanne Robinson, who was the main coordinator of the movement, followed by Alberta J. James. And then we'll also, in a moment, get to Addie J. Hammerter. What I want to say is that even in person, it seems like you can't get close up enough to really appreciate the true love and labor that Thomas gave to making these works. The detail is extraordinary, and it really defines the commitment that she has as an artist, but also as an African-American woman who wants to honor our ancestors and tell a more accurate version of the civil rights movement and American history that's not often recognized. So I I would like everyone to think about the labor of these women, but also to think about the labor of the artists and that kind of correlation between the two. So we'll walk across the main entrance and take a look at Addie J. Hammerter. And people who come to see this work and are familiar with Thomas's work are really blown away. Also, a solo exhibition of Thomas's work that's up simultaneously at the Palo Alto Art Center called Looking Back, which has more drawings by her from another series. The Bay Area is also represented by another extraordinarily gifted artist, Kenyatta A.C. Hinkle. Again, I just feel blessed and very fortunate to be able to have had the experience to meet and know these artists, all of them, all 6 of them, through their work. And this work is called The Evanescence, The Untouchables. And this is work that Hinkle made specifically for the Black Index exhibition, so I'm greatly honored. This is work that is inspired by the fact that there are thousands of Black women who are murdered and disappeared every year. And in most cases, they don't get any media attention to their death. And what she has done in these 100 drawings is to channel their spirits, meditate on their stories, and create what she calls unportraits, which is another way that she wants us to think about who they were, the potential that was lost, the fullness of life that they lived, and also what they might be doing now in the spiritual realm. We think about their bodies as kind of impossible bodies, right? That they are singular in some cases, they are fractured. Sometimes there's a great deal of multiplicity of different body parts, a combination of women together in a single image. And they are busy, they're working, they're doing things. It's a very mysterious set of sort of scenes that she presents for us. And there's nothing didactic, there's nothing in particular that she wants us to know about these women. This is really a kind of gift from Hinkle for us to wonder and to meditate on what's been lost and also our complicity in that process. So from here, we're going to look at the Alicia Henry work. This is titled Analogous 3. And Alicia Henry is a professor of art at Fisk University in Tennessee. And she made this work specifically for this exhibition, another act of generosity. And it's, I think, helpful to think about the title of the work, because when you approach the work, it sort of reveals itself to you. From far away, it looks perhaps like just black on white, but as you get closer, in that darkness, in the blackness, is all of this diversity in richness in terms of color, in terms of texture. These are works that are made on suede and leather. They are painted, they are cut, they are sewn. Each one seems to have its own story to tell. And thinking about that title, I think in a really generous way, Henry says that these faces are analogous to many things, to masks, to souls, to ancestors, to spirits, to activists, to witnesses. And she leaves it open-ended for each of us as viewers to decide how we consider them, how we engage with them. I think like Kenyatta A.C. Hinkle's work, because the work takes up so much space, the body of each of the viewers, right, we have to engage in kind of procession. Our body is involved in the representation of their bodies, and we can form temporarily a kind of community. So it's really extraordinary. Like all of the works in the show, you need to really spend time engaging, taking time, which is a wonderful thing to be able to do. It's wonderful to be able to come and see the show in person because we've all been surviving this pandemic and all of the challenges. And this is an opportunity to reflect, to look, to contemplate. It's really been, for me personally, a really extraordinary gift to be able to commune with the stories that are told in this work. Another artist who I'm incredibly honored to have in the exhibition is Whitfield Lovell. He's based in New York. He is one of MacArthur Genius Fellows in this exhibition. And Whitfield's work really started the whole concept of the Black Index for me. I saw a body of work that is owned by the National Museum of African American History and Culture called The Rounds. And it is a set of 54 images, 54 drawings of people, like we see here, combined with a set of round playing cards, so an entire set and 2 jokers. And when I was writing about the work, I contacted Whitfield Lovell and I said, I'm a huge fan. I had this experience looking at your work in Washington, D.C. I felt like he was, as an artist, kind of replenishing a community of Black people that were watching sort of be decimated every day. And I felt a real connection to the work and really to Lovell, even though at that point I didn't know him. He was incredibly generous in his response to my email. And it's been really a joy to be able to have more insight into the work and then have the opportunity to share it with many more people. So these are all very detailed drawings of the faces of people who are in his massive collection of vintage photographs of African American people. All of the people that you see in this work are unknown, except for one, which is this beautiful woman here, which is a drawing of Whitfield Lovell's mother. And it's, as a curator, it's really an incredible privilege to be able to debut this image alone to the world in the context of this exhibition. What he does is he makes these drawings that are really detailed, leaves the sparseness of the body, and then has this kind of intuitive process of pairing the face with the card. And then it's up to us as viewers. Again, like other work in the show, there's nothing so didactic, and this is a one-on-one ratio of how you should understand the work. But he lets us decide what the relationship is between the person and the card. And to think about cards and card games, the way that we have card playing as part of our social lives, but also to think about games of chance, things, you can think about it in terms of sort of a metaphor of your life as playing with the hand you're dealt. There's a lot of playfulness and wonder that goes into the experience of Lovell's work. So it's really a treat to be able to share it. The other MacArthur Genius Fellow in the exhibition is Titus Kaphar. And I'm honored to have this work, 3 works in the exhibition that are from his series called Redaction, which is a collaborative process, a project that he's done with Reginald Dwayne Betts, who's a poet and an attorney. And what we're looking at here are etchings based on drawings that Kaphar has done of people who have been incarcerated. And laid on top of that is redacted court documents. And to be more specific, these are court documents that are filed on behalf of people who are incarcerated because they could not afford to pay court fines and fees. So these are people who are in prison because they are poor. And as a poet, Reginald Dwayne Betts took these documents and then redacted or blacked out the words so that he's leaving some words and then hiding others what is left tells a story that the entire document doesn't show. And what Betts has in mind is to tell the side of the story of the people that are imaged. The paper that's used for the printing is paper that is made from the worn out clothing of people who are currently incarcerated. And the paper is made into pulp and then gone through this process of press to make this sort of frayed edge, thick black paper that adds another layer to understanding the work. The font that's used in these works is the same font that's used in parts of the exhibition catalog and also the wall labels and the object labels for the show. This is an important font that Betts and Kafar commissioned to be used as a social justice font. And if you go to redaction.us, you can read the whole story about this font. We're also going to have a book launch for the exhibition catalog on June 18th. And the designers of the font, Forrest Young and Jeremy Nickel, are going to talk about their development of the font and also its afterlife. So that is your quick overview of the exhibit. Please stay tuned to the Palo Alto Art Center website for upcoming programs. And you can also go to theblackindex.art for more information about the show, past programs at its first iteration at UC Irvine to learn more about the artists as well. And I just, again, want to thank so many people who have already been named, so I will just echo my gratitude and say how excited I am that you can actually come and see the work in person starting tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bridget, for allowing us to experience the Black Index exhibition with you. I'm now delighted to introduce Lily Jackson, who will lead us in an interactive poetry activity inspired by the Black Index. The only thing that you're going to need to participate is a pen and pencil and paper and a black marker or Sharpie. So you may want to get those on hand while I introduce Lily, who is looking fabulous this evening. Lily Jackson, she, her, is a playwright whose work aligns itself with the lives of Black, queer, and straight women. Jackson is passionate about community engagement and has produced her plays with teams ranging from 4 to 21 people of color who lead, star in, and develop theater all over the West Coast. In 2017, her play, Comb Your Hair or You'll Look Like a Slave, was honored and performed at the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival National Competition as a finalist. In 2019, her full-length reverse minstrel piece was a national finalist at the Austin Film Festival. In 2019, she founded Black Light Arts Collective, a nonprofit dedicated to creating space where artists can gather to refine ideas, stories, and expressions of Black imagination. Jackson is from the Bay Area and currently resides in Southern California, where she obtained her Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing and Writing for the Performing Arts Playwriting in 2019. Welcome, Lily.
Thank you so much, Karen. I am very, very excited to be here at home, but in spirit with you all. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to start off with a poem that I wrote. Bottles against the concrete, right outside my window, I used sacred ashes, pins, that tapestry hanging on my wall. Every surface loves me back. A universe of Black women will always be, to me, the organic God. Welcome, 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 everybody. I want to first start off by saying thank you. Thank you personally for being here on this Friday night. I know y'all probably zoomed out, Zoom fatigue, and here you are engaging in the Black Index with us all. So thank you. Thank you to Dr. Bridget Cooks for your vision and work that has been manifested in this series, and all 6 of the artists who've participated and has allowed for us to consume their work during this global traumatic crisis. To Karen and everyone at the Palo Art Center for curating this virtual community in a time where a lot of us artists feel uncertain about how we will engage with the outside artistic community. So thank you. Right now, I am excited to introduce this activity. So the piece that I just wrote, and shared with you all, is a piece that I wrote in the theme of the exercise that we're going to be doing today. We're going to be writing some poetry from our own redacted. So right now, I'd like you to first just get comfortable. Get comfortable. If you have feet, put your feet on the floor. If you don't, just feel comfortable. If you're sitting, then, sit with your shoulders straight. Just get as comfortable as you can get in the space that you are taking up right now. Comfortable. Cool. So, right now, in your space, I'd like you to imagine that this is the only space that you need. The outside world is not relevant in this space. Everything here is supposed to be here. Everything here is from here. In this activity, I want us to imagine what happens when we create from the redacted in a redacted space. Redacted poetry or blackout poetry ignites inspiration and jumpstart creativity from professional artists to writers to everyday creatives of all ages. Redacted poetry is accessible to everybody. Unlike many art forms that rely on the addition or fabrication of new ideas, redacted poetry is founded on the deliberate removal or subjugation of words from existing text to unveil a new idea underneath. Since all the words needed for a new poem already exist in the world, you are going to redact from what you already have. The pressure to create while being suffocated by professionalism and performance is eliminated. You're literally, everything you need is in the space that you have and within the space that you have inside of you. So I believe words can also exist beyond the page. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna get grounded, okay? So let's just take some deep breaths. Inhale and then exhale. Inhale, hold it, exhale. Get comfortable, feel comfortable, get loose, shake off the week. Straighten your back if you can. Make it feel like something kind of pulling your head up gently. Yeah. Take another deep breath in. Hold it. And then release. Exhaling. Now let's close our eyes. Take inventory of the sounds around you and inside of you. What sounds do you hear? What thoughts are racing through your head? Do you have a noisy neighbor who's having a party, or is the dog barking or cat scratching at your door? Is your partner yapping at you? Is there no sound at all other than my voice? What sounds do you hear? Listen to them. Let's take a moment to listen to those sounds. jot down all the signs, open your eyes first, and then jot down all the sounds you heard. Now, when you're jotting things down, you can either list where it's just on one side and then you'll do the next part on the other, or you can just write continuously through, just whatever you heard. So an example would be, I heard bottles scrape against the concrete, a car speeding down the street, and a bird chirping right outside my window. I heard my housemate's voice, though I couldn't make out what they were saying. I thought, am I doing this right? I hear my breath. So it can sound anywhere like that. So everything you heard, just jot it down. And we're gonna do that for about a minute or two. Take another minute. It doesn't have to be flowery, just whatever you heard, however it comes out on your paper. Right. Take another 10 seconds to wrap up your last thoughts. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take in a visual inventory. So take another deep breath if you need to. So I do. Shake it out. And I'm gonna look around, and you are all gonna look around, or I'm gonna invite you also to look around your space. What's in there? Try not to attach it to, when you're looking at things, try not to attach it to a cost, like, oh, I spent this much on my Prada shoes, or this Gucci looking good, or anything like that. But what it serves in the moment right now. Maybe it's a card that has your name on it, or a plant that you like to look at, or something that your parents gave you or your lover gave you. It can be anything. Just jot down those things in a space that is catching your eye. Maybe something that you look at every day, maybe something you never look at all. Maybe you're not at home. Maybe you at your homie's house and they got some cool, interesting things that's catching your eye. Take inventory of those things. Just what they are, and the purpose that it's serving to you right now, or the purpose that it's serving in that space. And you can jot those things down. Some examples might be some fabric, an ashtray, scissors for cutting, all my pens in a mug that holds them, my plants in the windowsill that make me feel happy. Just jot those things down, and it can just all be on the same page. You can start another paragraph if you want, whatever, however you're jotting it down, we're gonna work with it. Take another 30 seconds to write down the things you see in your space. Okay, now this is the last written inventory part, all right, of our redacted writing exercise. So take another deep breath, release. And this part was my favorite part. So now you're just gonna take in words in your space, words, numbers, symbols, those kinds of things, and write those down. If you like me and you have a whole bunch of books, this is gonna be real fun because book titles are really fun. But also if you have mail laying around, whatever you have in your space that has words on it or symbols on it, jot some of those down. Give you about a minute to do that. Take another 10, 15 seconds to wrap up your last thought. All right, now we're going to get into writing our poems, our redacted poems. So the list that you've made, look at it. Just take a look at it. Look at all your things, all the things that exist within your space right now. These things that already may have a history, but that history, we've redacted that. Now it serves a new purpose. Take a look at that list. Take a look at your page. Now with a pencil. If you have a pencil, use a pencil for this. If you don't have a pencil, you can use a pen, but it's better if you use a pencil. So with your pencil, circle or put a square around statements, words, letters, numbers, symbols that stand out in order to create your poem. Everything else, when you're done, like everything else, we're gonna cross it out. This was so fun to me. I am so excited for you all to create these poems in this way because for me, the experience was cathartic, and it also helped me become like really grateful for my space and how I was taking up space in this space. So I'm gonna show you mine. Um, Here's mine. You see, I use a highlighter. That's how I know you should use a pencil, because I was like, oh, I want to erase this. I want to do something else, but it was too late. So all the words that you're attracted to, that sounds good, that feels good, you can circle it with your pencil. And then at the end, when you read it through and you have something that you feel comfortable with, we're gonna use our Sharpie or our crayon or our black pen or black marker to redact everything else and read our new poem that's been redacted and created from something that sort of no longer exists within this poem, but still exists within the space and within the realm. So I'm gonna give us 10 minutes to do that. And then when we come together, if a few of you want to read yours, I would love that. I read mine. I know it's not that good, but it felt good reading it. And we'll just give you space to read it and show you love. And yeah, and it'll be a no explanation, redacting your experience, but just sharing what you've created. So go ahead, take 10 minutes to look through that. I hope that makes sense. If you have questions, I think you can put it in the chat. I believe, I'm not sure. But yes, just have fun with it and don't think too much about it. And yes, I'll give you 10 minutes and I'll stop talking. Yes, I'm seeing some in the chat. That's so good. They're so good. Karen, can I read some of these out loud? Should I read some out loud?
Please do.
Ooh, yay, okay. I won't say names. Lights humming, buttons breathing, closing the sound, footsteps coming through, so cool. And the books, open bag, telephone folders and posters on the wall, electric in the brick wall, being appreciated. Rolled up alien mobile charismatic community, best thing. Let's do some snaps, show some love. Yes. Okay. Here's another. Not sure if I'm doing this right. Running, singing, birds, dings, espresso, photos, embroidered gifts, orchard blooming, epic, Presidio, Cuba. Yes. I love the list. I love a good list poem. Like my favorite is by Lucille Clifton in Book of Light. She has a list poem. So yes, you are doing it right. If that was a question, thank you, thank you. Here's another short poem. A man's voice far away, telling someone something. Ain't that the story of it all? The beginning of the world. I love it. Okay.
So we're hearing that the chat is disabled. We're sorry about that. We're working on that. People could also, if they raise their hand, we can unmute them and you can actually read your poem yourself.
I prefer that. Anyone want to read theirs? Share. Danny.
Hi, I'll read mine because only my first sentence went into the chat. A man's voice far away telling someone something. Carrier. Papered window, useless light switch. Unmute.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else who's next?
There's more people.
There are more people who want to share. I'm hoping that one of my colleagues can unmute Dan or Marcia Pugsley.
Hi, this is Dan. Can you hear me? Insistent, favorite, continuous wonder. Subtly we are surrounded. Inspiration, art, people, stress, dirty glass, and treasure everywhere. Question info.
Thank you so much, Dan. I love how that really, really represents this moment. Thank you so much. Who's next?
I think me, Marcia. Okay. Inner voices. What's happening? I'm at a loss. It's too difficult to tell what I'm seeing. Artwork feeds my soul. Kent plus me, home.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Marcia.
I have one.
Now
Yes,
Kent has one.
Okay, here we go. To listen quietly, the sounds of silence, white noise in my head, or building air moving. Beauty outside through the window. New pattern of chair back, reflections on green glass, tilting pillow, lit loon. Too dark to read on bed of blank.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Yes. Do we have one more person who'd like to read? One or two more people who'd like to read?
I have someone sitting next to me who'd like to read too.
Hi, I'm Jeannie. Sounds of a clock, tick-tock, underneath the steady sound of water flowing peacefully, both existing in the same time and space. Keys, art, wall full of pieces thumbtacked, another space beyond.
You sure you just wrote that? That sounds so good. That's amazing. Thank you. Fanny, your hand is raised.
I already read. I'll unraise, sorry.
Sorry.
Thank
Okay.
you, Lily.
Problem. Thank you all so much for reading. Thank you for participating in this and exploring the redacted and creating a redacted as well, a redacted piece. I hope that for those of you who shared and who did not share, this is something that you can treasure for yourselves or to do whatever you want with it, and we'll continue on in these sort of practices. They really can serve us in helping us get unstuck if you have writer's block, but also to taking inventory, just taking inventory of our space. So thank you so much, Karen, for having me, and I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you so much, Lily. I loved that. I'm going to use that again. It was really amazing. I'm now delighted to introduce Julie Lythcott-Haims. Palo Alto-based Julie Lythcott-Haims calls herself a writer, speaker, and human. She believes in humans and is deeply interested in what gets in our way. She is the New York Times bestselling author of the Anti-Helicopter Parenting Manifesto, How to Raise an Adult, which gave rise to a TED Talk that has more than 5 million views. Her second book is the critically acclaimed and award-winning prose poetry memoir, Real American, which illustrates her experience as a Black and biracial person in white spaces. A third book, Your Turn, How to Be an Adult, is out. Julie is a former corporate lawyer and Stanford Dean and holds a BA from Stanford, a JD from Harvard, and an MFA in writing from California College of the Arts. She serves on the board of Common Sense Media and on the advisory board of leanin.org, and is a former board member at Foundation for College Education, Global Citizen Year, The Writer's Grotto, and Challenge Success. She volunteers with the hospital program No One Dies Alone. She lives in the San Francisco Bay Area with her partner of over 30 years. They're itinerant young adults and her mother. Thank you and welcome, Julie. We're so delighted to have you here tonight.
Karen, I'm sitting here struck, as I know close to 50 other people are, at my good fortune at having learned of this exhibition. And of course, I am humbled and honored to get to be a part of the content in this space tonight. So I want to thank the Palo Alto Arts Council and you and your team for having me, Dr. Bridget R. Cooks for putting this amazing exhibition together. Of course, big thanks to all of the artists and to the poet Lily Jackson. You are a hard act to follow. I want to thank you for taking us into the creation space to explore the redacted. It reminded me that I need to get back to my writing origins, which were poetry. I don't call myself a poet. I haven't yet earned that title, but I do use the reading and writing of poetry to strengthen my prose and my thinking. And so I appreciated your pulling me into that space tonight. Also, I have to thank you for evoking the name of Lucille Clifton, whom I regard as my literary Black mother, the first poet, the first writer who beckoned me so invitingly that I finally saw myself when I was in my 30s. I have to also say that this weird virtual Zoom environment allowed me to hear, but not see, my beloved life partner of 33 years, Dan, as he read his poem to you. And then a few people later was my amazing mother, whom you praised. You said, "Did you really write that tonight? That sounded amazing. She really wrote that just now." So strange, this technology. It affords some silver linings, and that was one of them. I'm a Palo Alto resident. My bio says San Francisco Bay Area, but that's just to keep the creepy people away from finding me. But here I am in my own town. Delighted to be a Palo Alto resident, homeowner since 2000. I'm 53. I'm a Black and biracial human, and I'm a writer. I make my way in the world now through my writing. I grew up mostly in white spaces, sometimes in virtually entirely white communities, save my family. And as happens to Black and brown children in America, I learned young, at about 3 or 4, that something was wrong with my Black daddy and probably also wrong with me. I couldn't have called it racism when I was 3, but I knew that the looks on the faces of certain strangers were meant to frighten me, and they did. And so I saw in the faces of strangers, I heard in the strange questions from friends, I saw in the behavior of teachers, I gleaned from the media that something was wrong with those of us who wear a skin of brown, who are Black, who are African American. I learned about the negative stereotypes about us. I experienced mistreatment myself on the basis of my skin color. I began running from those stereotypes. I began running from those stereotypes toward whatever pleased white folks. After being called the N-word on my 17th birthday in my all-white high school, which I never told anybody about because I was so ashamed to be the Black kid in my all-white high school by that point. I was simply living a life trying to never be called the N-word again. I plunged into a place of self-loathing. I didn't then know the term internalized oppression. I know it now. Over a course of 25 years, I inhabited that self-loathing space while outwardly making it according to the various badges of success you articulated when you read my bio. Outwardly successful, inwardly ashamed to be me. Ultimately, I did the work. I did the work around loving this Black self and ridding racism from my psyche, staring at the bully of racism, internalized oppression that had said, "You are not worthy. Prove yourself, prove yourself, prove yourself." I finally called it what it was when I was about 39. And so I have been liberated from that for 14 years. Some of the unfortunate experiences I've had in my life happened right here in Palo Alto, California. I have, like I'm sure most Black and brown folks have, been rudely treated by neighbors. I have gone to a local PTA fundraiser party only to see a white woman show up in blackface. Yes, in our town. And having ascended to an important role at Stanford University, I was delighted and honored to have arrived at in terms of my career, 3 days into a new job, a prestigious job. There was an important event, and a white lady walked in, handed me her coat, and did not even make eye contact with me. She was clear I was the help. Now, these problems are situated within privilege, to be sure. I was raised middle class. I am now upper middle class. So these are not examples of struggle. Nobody should pity me. I'm not saying any of this for that reason. I'm saying this to say that I think what my lived experience, which I tried to explicate in my memoir, Real American, my lived experience demonstrates that education and socioeconomic status do not protect us necessarily, or not entirely. They do not lift us out of the pit that the racists and the white supremacists keep trying to put us in. They do not see us as human. They have never seen us as human. They stole land from the natives who live here. By the way, I'm on the Ramaytush Ohlone land here in what's now known as Palo Alto. They stole land from people they began calling red-skinned, the Native Americans, the indigenous folk. Then they enslaved Africans, and they created more slaves by raping Black women. And when they separated us from our families on the auction block, and we cried with anguish, ripped from spouse, ripped from child, ripped from mother, ripped from father, they did not regard our cries of anguish as the cries of human beings. Had they regarded us as human beings, they couldn't have withstood the sound of our wailing. But they did, because to them, we were animals. And that mindset that we are animals, not fully human, not actually human like white folks, is with us as of the present minute. And this is why, for example, when a young Black male, Tamir Rice, was gunned down in broad daylight playing with a toy gun in Cleveland, Ohio, shot dead, this is why his killer still has not been indicted close to 7 years later, because they don't see that 12-year-old Black boy as human. We all know that if he had been named Tommy Rice, blonde, we would have had police reform in 72 hours. I'd wager that if a dog had been shot in broad daylight in cold blood by a police officer, we'd have had police reform within 72 hours. But instead, it was a young Black boy, and justice still waits. We have no control over the racists and the white supremacists. Only we can lift ourselves out of the oppression of the invisibility, the misrecognition, the colonization, the containment, the degradation, the enslavement, the disparagement. But it isn't easy, particularly with systemic dehumanization of Black bodies recorded on video, talked about in the news, and rarely adjudicated, let alone punished. The recent verdict delivered against Derek Chauvin was an anomaly, an important victory, but let us not pretend that it didn't take a mountain of evidence viewed by people around the world for that verdict to happen, for the world to say this was a human being you killed. It took mountains of evidence to counteract the typical prosecutorial and law enforcement narrative. For close to a year as a writer and speaker, I have been asking my audiences of whatever color, do you see Black and brown people as fully human? Okay, fine. You think you do, but if so, how do you know? Where does it show? Where's your evidence that this value you purport to have, that you do see us as fully human, how does it show up in your actions and in your behaviors? What would your child say if someone knocked on your door and said, do your parents treat Black and brown people as fully human, child? If so, how do you know? And my second question has been, what are you doing to make your world kinder and safer for Black people? Whether your world is your house, your extended family, your school, your workplace, your neighborhood, your community, your America. I'm 53, as I've said. Does it show? The grays are coming in. I wish I'd come to this place of self-loving sooner so that I could exist for more decades, years on this planet in this place of self-love. But I sure am glad that I'm finally here. And when I saw the KKK marching through the streets of a college town, I live in a college town. We live in a college town, we here in Palo Alto. When they did that in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017 in August, it was the first time since I was 7 that I had seen the KKK on the TV. And I was frightened, unlike any time since I was 7. They have returned. They are snarling. They are entitled. They are supported by government sometimes, and they are armed. In late October, I called my niece, Sade Lifkat. She lives in Harlem. She's the executive director of the National Black Theater, which was founded by her mother, Dr. Barbara Ann Tier, 50 years ago. I said to Sade, I am so scared. This was late October. I am so scared about what's going to happen to some subset of humans When this election happens and the results are counted, I am so scared. I don't know the faces of the people who will lose their lives, but I see it happening. I'm not saying I predicted an insurrection in January. I just knew in my heart that these armed white supremacists were just getting started, trying to take their country back. And my dear niece heard me and held me over the phone 3,000 miles away. And she said, Julie, you are compassionate. I value that. But in your words, I hear that you are rooted in our oppression and fear. She said, my auntie, can you instead root your intentions and efforts and concerns in our liberation, in our excellence, in our resilience, and in our joy? And I did. It was a complete reframe. Helped me see that I want to choose the spaces and places and conversations that I want to be in. This exhibition is one such space. So, Dr. Bridget R. Cooks, Lily Jackson, Dennis Delgado, Alicia Henry, Kenyatta A.C. Hinkle, Titus Kafar, Reginald Dwayne Betts, Whitfield Level, Lava Thomas. I want to thank you from the deepest places within my spirit and my bones for creating this exhibition and this artwork that is part of the exhibition. I thank you for your creation, for your vision. You have rejected invisibility, enslavement, misrecognition, disparagement, colonization, containment, degradation, and instead laid plain our humanity. The portrait of Alberta James, one of the 3 women Lava Thomas depicted who had been arrested for participating in the Montgomery bus boycott. Did you notice? She was gloved only on one hand. That is such exquisite evidence of our humanity. You could almost look into her eyes and see her saying, God damn it. I participated in this boycott. This matters to me. And somehow along the way, not only did I get arrested, I lost my good glove. She lost her glove. She's a human. She lost her glove some way, somewhere on that path toward justice. You've laid plain our humanity through self-representation, through unexplored approaches to representing Blackness, even in a time, yes, when we have so many more representations by us, of us, than ever before. And your works, these works, this Black Index, have made me, this Black woman, see myself, my ancestors, my descendants, and my Black community with a deeper love, a surer Blackness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julie. I want to just hold this space for a moment. In closing, I want to thank all of the amazing people who have made this exhibition and this event possible. The Black Index artists, the donors, the lenders, curator Bridget R. Cooks, Aldo Billingsley, Lily Jackson, and Julie Lithcott-Haynes. We want to thank Jackie's Place, a Black-owned soul food and barbecue restaurant in San Jose, who provided cocktails tonight for our circle level members and provided a cocktail recipe for those who attended tonight. I want to thank the Art Center's amazing installation crew, Joseph Sachs, Laura, Danny, Leanie, and Ivan. I want to thank our registrars, Anna Soland and Amy Cohen, for coordinating loans and shipping for this exhibition. And last but not least, I want to thank all of the staff for their work to organize this event tonight. We weathered some technical challenges, but it was an incredible event. Selena Sandoval Gallo, Paige Sweeten, Karen Kwan, Emer Picardo, and Fanny Retzek. Thank you all for attending. We look forward to seeing you at the Art Center during the run of the Black Index through August 14th. Thank you. We appreciate your being here, and we look forward to seeing you at the Art Center soon.
I'll be so glad when the sun goes down. When the sun goes down. I'll be so glad when the sun goes down. When the sun goes down. I ain't all that sleepy, but I wanna lie down. I ain't all that sleepy, but I wanna lie down. I wanna lie down, baby. I wanna lie down. I ain't all that sleepy, but get down on me. Get down on me. Just chop your corner like I chop mine. Just chop your corner like I chop mine. Well, you won't be worried when the sun